6 important life lessons from the book of Galatians. I went through the book of Galatians and I found one verse in every chapter that I felt had a really important life lesson. Now, if you found other life lessons in the book of Galatians, put it down in the comments below and let me know what they are and what your favorites are in this book. There's so much in this book, but I'm just picking out the 6 little things that I thought can make a big difference. So the first life lesson is in Galatians 1 verse 10. It says, "For do I now persuade men or God? Or do I seek to please men? For if I still pleased men, I would not be a bondservant of Christ." And I think this is one of the most important things I had to learn in my life, is that don't live for the approval of others. So lesson number 1, don't live for the approval of others. Don't live to please people, but live to please God. Because I've found one thing to be very true. If you live for the approval of others, you will live and die by that. You'll be happy and sad by that. And so if people approve of you, you'll be happy and everything will be wonderful. But if they don't, your whole world comes tumbling down. And I learned that many times the hard way. Looking for the approval of other people and hoping that they're going to look at you and say what we see is good. And unfortunately, many times you're not going to get that from people. And if you rely on it instead of relying on God, it leaves you in a very weak position in life. So don't rely on people and don't look for their approval, but rather look to please God. Because when you please God, the people that are pleased with you are the right people. But if you're trying to please people and you're not pleasing God, you're going to be pleasing all the wrong people. So that's a really important one. And I think it comes down to this. Do I have the self-confidence and the confidence in God to not worry about what other people think? The minute you let go of what people think of you is the first day of the best rest of your life. Lesson number 2, Galatians 2 verse 20. "I've been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me." And so I want to say for that one, lesson number 2 is you are not defined by your past. Because it says they have been crucified with Christ. So everything that's come from your past is over. And if you look at 2 Corinthians 5:17, you'll see there as well, it says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation." He or she is a new creation. "Old things are passed away, behold, all things have become new." And those 2 scriptures work really well together. So you are not defined by your past. So many of us come from a past where we feel ashamed of who we were, ashamed of what we did, where we were made to feel bad about who we were by other people. And I really feel like God is saying to us with these scriptures, you are not defined by who you used to be, but you are defined by who I say you are. So who God says you are is far more important than anything you've done in your past or anything that you've been involved in your past. And for so many of us, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've been like a really, what people consider a bad person. The people that went and they were thieves and stole and did drugs and spent years doing all that kind of stuff. Well, you know what? There's so many things that we could have been doing that were more subtle than that we may be ashamed about. Or things that have happened to us we may be ashamed about. Things maybe sometimes we didn't even have control over that we may be ashamed about. But God says to us, don't be defined by your past, but be defined by who I say you are right now. And who he says that we are is defined by what Jesus Christ did on the cross. And he washed away everything that we need to be ashamed about or even worried about. So we could say, yes, I am a new creature. The old Sylvia is gone. The old you is gone. And you're a brand new person because of him. Lesson number 3 in Galatians 3 verse 27 says, "For as many of you as were baptized into Christ Jesus have put on Christ." And this is connected to the previous one. So the lesson there for me is this: your value is in Christ. And I think this is so important because many times we put our value in our job, our education, how we look, what people think about us, what kind of house we live in, what kind of car we drive, what kind of friends we have, who likes us and who doesn't like us. All those kind of superficial things. And that's really what they are. They are superficial. And they're unimportant. It is unfortunate that in this world that we live in, people do pay attention to the superficial things. But you and I have to realize that we've got to look deeper than that. God expects us to look deeper than that and to understand that our value is in Him. It's not in any of those other things. For me, growing up, we didn't have a lot of money. We were sort of middle class, maybe a little bit less. I don't know what I'd consider it. But I didn't have money to go and have an education after school, like a lot of people do today. And there's many who also don't. And, so I always was ashamed to say, well, basically all I've got is high school. But, there's some people out there that don't even have high school. And we've got to stop looking at that and thinking, well, that makes me less of a person. No, it does not make you less of a person. You have value in Him. And you can reach any dream that you want to reach if you trust in Him and you rely on Him instead of worrying about valuing yourself according to what men and people say. So that's lesson number 3. Lesson number 4 is Galatians 4 verse 7 says, therefore you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of God through Christ. Now let's just first understand immediately when it says son there, it's not speaking about gender, but if you look at the old tradition of the Jewish people, it really spoke more about position in the family. So we're not going to get caught up in gender roles and that kind of thing, but to understand when God says He's speaking of a son, He's speaking of someone who is an heir and the position in the family. So He doesn't see us as slaves anymore. God does not see you as a slave, but He sees you as His child and also as His friend. And I want to encourage you that if you want to know more about being God's friend, there's a really beautiful teaching that I did called You Can Be God's Friend on this channel, and you can go and look for that. I'll link it in the description below to really understand what it means to be God's friend. And He's saying you're not a servant, you're not a slave, you are my child and you are my friend. And when you begin to understand that that's where you stand with Him, it changes who you are. So I want to encourage you to also go and look at that other video. I really feel like it will help you in that regard. Lesson number 5, Galatians 5 verse 25 says, if we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. And so the lesson there is basically don't be led by your feelings and your emotions and what your mind tells you, but be led by the Spirit. And so many times in life, the first thing that we react with is our thoughts and our emotions. Something bad happens and we have an emotional reaction. And our mind winds and winds and winds around in our mind until it's, when something bad happens, it can overwhelm you. But He's saying, I want you to be led by the Spirit. I want you to walk in the Spirit. If you're led by the Spirit, you're going to walk in the Spirit. So don't be led by your feelings. Don't be led by your emotions. Don't be led by your circumstances. Yes, easier said than done, 100% true. And it takes changing the way that you think. And that is something that happens over time. It's not an overnight thing. It doesn't just change, but it takes time. And the way that you begin to change the way you think is to spend more time in His Word. If you want to be led by the Spirit and not by your feelings, spend more time in the Word. That is the number one tip I can give you there, and I'm telling you, I know that it works because I've tried it myself, and it definitely does. So lesson number 6, Galatians 6 verse 9 says, and let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. This is the last lesson. Galatians is 6 chapters long. And I think it's important, the lesson there is this. Don't get tired of doing the right thing. So many times you can be doing the right thing and it just never seems to come right for you. You say, Lord, I'm doing the right thing. I keep doing the right thing and I'm so tired of it because I never seem to get on top. Everybody else seems to be doing much better than me. And I've had that in my life so many times. I think I'm trying to do it right, but it's not helping. What is the problem? But He's saying, don't get tired of doing the right thing. Don't be weary of doing good. Don't get tired of doing the right thing, because when the time is right, you will reap what you have sowed. And just to tie into that, don't sow bad seeds. Don't get tired of doing the right thing. Keep on doing things God's way. Keep on doing it right. Even if everyone around you is not doing the right thing, don't you get tired of it. Because then when your time comes, you are going to reap what you sowed. So let's sow good seeds. I'm not talking about money, but sow good seeds inside. Treat people well, respect people, be kind. Do what God says in His Word. Love one another. All those kind of things. And show God's character. But don't get tired of doing the right thing. Because in due season, you will see that you're going to reap the rewards of those decisions and those actions in your life. So thank you for watching this. 6 little lessons that I believe can help you. And if you liked it, please like. And if you want to see more videos like this, I'd humbly ask you to please subscribe to my channel so that it can grow. And if you like and you subscribe and all those kind of things, it does help other people see these videos. So I really appreciate your support. Thank you so much.